Winter Solstice Candle Meditation. If you do not have a candle, go ahead and bring one to the screen, and you can also save this practice for tomorrow, the winter solstice. But because it's Shabbat tomorrow, we wanted to prepare for the darkest and coldest night of the year by entering into meditation together. So take a moment to grab your candle, and I'll share a little bit about the significance of the winter solstice and how it connects to Jewish wisdom, particularly Hanukkah. So many of us know the story of the Maccabees in 139 BCE, the Hanukkah story that we often tell and retell and celebrate. There's also a primordial celebration of light that is even more ancient and also even more universal. And it comes from the Talmud in Avodah Zarah, the story of the first winter solstice. And this story is intricately connected and essentially related to the Hanukkah that we celebrate today. The story goes that Adam and Chava, the first humans, were in the Garden of Eden and experiencing their very first winter. Now, if you can imagine being the first humans and not knowing what's to come, winter was very scary and challenging. All of a sudden, the days are getting darker and it's getting colder. And naturally, Adam and Chava thought that the world was ending, that the world would go back to a state of tohu vavohu, darkness and chaos. And naturally, they started to panic, thinking the world was going to end. So Adam decided to fast for 8 days and pray for 8 days, hoping that the divine would, reverse this decree. And for 8 days, he did that. He fasted and prayed. And then he reached the winter solstice, the longest, the darkest, the coldest night of the year. And the next day, he noticed there was a glimmer more of light, a glimmer more of warmth. And he realized, this is the way of the world. First there's darkness, and then there's light. And he understood this is the sacred rhythm of time. And he celebrated for 8 days. And this was the original celebration of light that would later become celebrated as Hanukkah. Now, we understand the rhythm of time. Even in Jewish wisdom, the day begins at night. First there's evening, then there's morning, one day. And part of this rhythm is to help us trust in the darkness, in the unknown, in the uncertainty that the light will return. Now that we know that, we can descend into the darkness without panic and fear, but with a trust that the days will warm. And that's why this Hebrew month, Kislev, the root is kesel, which means trusting. We can trust in the darkness. And in fact, the very first light that we ever experienced was in the darkest place, was in the womb. There's a beautiful midrash, an oral story, about our first experience with light. And it's not just physical light, but a light known as the Or Haganuz. This is the light we celebrate on Hanukkah, the hidden light, the metaphysical, spiritual light. The first time we experienced this was in the womb. It says that when the divine sent the soul into the world, into the womb, the divine sent 2 angels with the soul into the womb. And these 2 angels cared and protected and fed and sustained the fetus in the womb. And meanwhile, the Midrash says that the angels also teach the fetus all the wisdom of the worlds in the darkness of the womb. And above the fetus, there's a glowing candle, a glowing light, where we learn the Torah, where we learn the secrets of the universe in this place. This is our first experience with light. In the darkest place, we learned all the wisdom we'll need to know for all of life. And then the Midrash says, when the baby's born, the angel flicks the fetus right above the lip. That's why we have a dent right here. And the fetus forgets everything. And yet, through life, when we're discovering wisdom, when we're learning about ourselves and the world, we already know all of this. We're just remembering what we were exposed to, what was revealed to us in the womb. And this is the Or HaGanuz. This is the metaphysical light that we experience on Hanukkah when we light the flames of the menorah. Our sages say Adam used the Or HaGanuz to see from one end of the world to the other, meaning this light brings us a totality of vision, a fullness of revelation that's beyond time and space. It's the same light that says in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Chava had Kot Not Or, bodies of light, because their soul radiated through their body and shone the essential purity and holiness and sacredness of this original light. This is the light that we experience in the flames. And this is why I'm inviting you today to a candle meditation. Candle gazing is the most ancient practice in Judaism and in all cultures. There's something significantly holy and helps us remember this original light of creation and the depth of our deep knowingness, right? We discovered this light from the womb. So we remember, this is our deep belly remembering. It's our intuition. It's our belly brain. In yoga, it's known as the hara. In Kabbalah, it's known as the point of Zion. The light brings us back to our deepest knowing. That's way below the level of the mind and into the deepest recesses of our womb state, if you have a womb, and if not, under that navel point. So candle gazing, our sages say on Hanukkah, we are not allowed to use the flame. We're just invited to look at it because the flames purify our vision. Remember this, they help us remember this light within. And so we'll together practice so that we can really candle gaze each night of Hanukkah. And something that's beautiful about the candle is it reminds us of our soul. The word for nefesh, which is the lowest level of our soul, connected to our body, connected to our physical consciousness, is an acronym for a candle, for the three parts of a candle. Nefesh stands for ner, pasila, and shemen, which means the three parts of the candle: the flame, the wick, and the oil or wax. And so often we associate the flame with our soul. It's the part that ascends, and it's the part that's in motion. It's the more dreamlike, mystical part. But Kabbalah is saying, no, all three parts of the candle resemble our soul. There's the flame, which is always yearning to ascend, to reconnect to its source. But there's also the wick that is drawing us down into our body. The wick is the dense, it's the earthly, it connects us down and in. And then there's the oil that combines the two together. So there's a source directly from the Zohar, and I can send this source sheet to you if you're interested. Feel free to message me. It says in the Zohar, the body is similar to the wick. The flame is like the divine presence that rests above the head, and the oil is what fuses the two together. So these three parts of the soul, and I made a little painting for you to understand. Here's the three parts of the candle and what they stand for: the flame, the wick, and the oil. And this resembles our soul. Pause for a moment. How crazy and amazing is it that our soul is an acronym for a candle? I just love that. I love that invitation. That's why candle gazing reminds us of who we inherently are. There's parts of us that we may connect to more. We may, as we're gazing at the candle, part of us may feel more connected to the flame at times, wanting to leave this physical world and reconnect. And some of us are more, we more relate to the flame. Some of us also like to escape and need to come back into the wick. The wick is what helps return us to our purpose and to our body. This oscillation between the flame and the wick is known in Kabbalah as ratzo veshuv, running and returning. This is a basic Kabbalistic principle that we see in all of life. There's part of us that wants to escape and yearn. That's ratzo, running. And then there's also the part of us that's continuously returning to our body, to this earth, to our purpose here and now. We see this running and returning in our breath, the rise and the fall. We see this running and returning in our heart rate variability, the expansions and contractions, the highs and lows of life, the spiritual experiences, and the more grounding experiences. We also see this in many of the dreams that we read in this month in Kislev. 9 out of 10 dreams in the Torah are in this month of Kislev, because this is the month of dream work. And we see this idea of ratzo veshuv, running and returning, in many of the dreams. Jacob's ladder, for example, we have the angels ascending and descending the ladder. They're running up to heaven and they're coming back down with messages to earth. We also see this in Ezekiel's prophecy of the way he experienced the angelic realm, where torches of light or sparks of light, literally it says running and returning, running and returning. So I encourage you to look around in your life and see that oscillation and see where in your body you feel that, where in your life you feel that. And sometimes there's a real challenge about being in a body in this world. There's part of us that it's not harmonious, and there's opposite parts of ourselves, and it's expressed, that struggle in the flame itself. And that's part of the resilience that we celebrate in Hanukkah, is that struggle between body and soul, spirit and flesh, flame and wick, running and returning. So I encourage us, as we're candle gazing, to notice where you relate. Do you relate to the running? Do you relate to the returning? Do you see any harmony or disharmony as you're experiencing the flame? And our sages give us a mantra that we can always return to if we get distracted. And it comes from King Solomon, from the book of Proverbs. And the mantra, the line is, the candle of the divine is the human soul. The candle of the divine is the human soul. So you can always return to this mantra if you get distracted or lost. Another invitation of this meditation is to simply listen to the lights. What are the lights telling you? What stories and layers of stories are within the dance of the flames? Just listen to the lights. You'll receive so much insight and message just from listening to the lights. So I'll give you a moment to light your candle, if you had one, and come into a comfortable position. Ideally, in a position that feels supportive. This meditation will be with eyes open so we can look at the flame. But if at any point this becomes distracting, you can always close your eyes and come into your inner wick and your inner flame. So, ready? Let's get our flames ready. We'll begin by lighting our candle and relax into the subtle sway of the flames, allowing the dance of the lights to calm the mind. We'll take some warming breaths near the flame, inhaling in the light and exhaling that warmth through the body. Inhaling, inviting in that light and new energy. And exhaling, sending it down the inner wick, the inner column of your body. Continue breathing like this at your own pace. Noticing the sound of your breath and perhaps the sound of the flickering flames. The sound of quiet as we descend into this winter stillness, this time of rest. And blinking your eyes awake, turn your full vision into your flame. Noticing all the colors here, starting at the very base, almost the samech at the bottom, and moving up the body of the flame, taking in all the colors of the body, all the way to the tip edges and the crown of the flame, and the glow, the colors around.